It's weird. I make mention on Birdsite to young people to maybe look into the idea of building your own house, your own property, because why would you want to keep paying these ridiculous amounts of money for these houses that are shoddy built? I mean, you can just scroll TikTok and see the different home inspectors. They're not exactly built very well. And in HOA neighborhoods that are just nightmares to live. So, my thought is like, well, okay, it's something I'm doing. I'm just sharing this with others, just pointing out that, hey, if you're a younger person, younger is a relative term, I get that. I don't fit into that category any longer. But, at the same time, like, younger people can do this kind of stuff. In fact, it's actually a bit easier when you're younger, because you don't have back pain, right? From years of doing this stuff. But it's weird, the amount of like hate I got on that. Like, don't tell people to do that. I'm guessing you're a landlord. You don't want people. I mean, the worst thing that could happen to landlords in the U.S. is that Americans actually own property and start building houses and don't need them any longer, right? Right? I mean, that would be the worst thing that could happen to the landlord class, because they need to have, for every property, there has to be a corresponding tenant, right? In order for that property to work. If there's just a whole bunch of properties and there's not enough tenants, well, then you have a bit of a problem if you're a landlord. You overpaid for a whole bunch of ridiculous real estate and a bunch of garbage houses that now nobody wants to live in. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem for them. I mean, just like all the assets, the rest of the assets in the U.S., most assets are way beyond what they're actually really worth in terms of like, they're way beyond utility value. Like way beyond that, because these people are just buying all this stuff and because they can just keep borrowing money and ratcheting up the debt. So yeah, I mean, I encourage people to try and check out of that as quickly as possible if you can. Get away from the debt. Get away from the colleges. Colleges have been destroying people's minds completely. I'm really surprised people are still going to the universities at this point. It's become pretty obvious that most universities now, because I've seen what comes out of the universities and I'm not impressed. So yeah, you wouldn't want to go to these places. It's just like I mentioned this earlier today, which was like all the CEOs, all the C-suite clowns. Look at what they do. Look what they need. They need endless government spending, endless government largesse, endless contracts, things like that. They need all this stuff. And what they can't get from that, they just run a bunch of scams on everybody else to just keep money coming in. They need to scam investors. I saw that there was like some municipality bought a bunch of electric buses from a company, and the company went out of business. Well, of course they did. Of course they went out of business. I mean, most of those business models are just scams to get investors money, people who don't know any better, who don't know what questions to ask, who don't understand what exactly they're gambling on, because it's exactly what it is. And they give the company a bunch of money. The CEO and the people who are running the company find a whole bunch of expenses to send all that money to away from the company. And then, yeah, maybe they ship out a few products here and there, but then the company folds because there was no real business model there. And now you're stuck with this municipality is stuck with something like $54 million worth of electric buses, and there's no parts for them, there's no support for them, nothing. They're just all sitting. They blew $54 million of the taxpayers' money on garbage, because they didn't know any better. And this is going to happen more and more and more, actually, with cities. This is coming, unless the cities start getting basically taken over by people who really know what the hell they're doing. And that isn't people who went to college. Sorry, college kids. I mean, I'm just gonna level with you. It isn't the people who went to the universities. It isn't people who went through the system. It's going to be people who have lived outside the system, who know what a con when they see it, who know a lie when they see it. No different than, all these young people, being told they got to be sent over to some other country to fight a war for another country against another country, none of which anybody cares about, and half of which the population can't even find on a map. So, yeah, I mean, so there you go. There's your attitude session for today.